Hi everyone. Here is again our conference transitioning in Bethanien, and very happy to announce the last panel of today, Hacking Biocodes, Social Revolts, Virtual Worlds, and Viral Love Biohack. That I think is a great title also to follow up the previous talk that we had, in which we also spoke about technologies of liberation. I think this connects pretty well. And here on stage, we have really great people, Helena, Velena, and Cheang, and also the great moderator, Margherita, Pevere, and later we will be also joined by Jira, Duguid. So I'm going now to introduce Margherita, and she will introduce then all the panelists. And also very proud to have Margherita with us. We know each other since a long time. I'm also a fan of her art because she's also a great artist. So perhaps in the future at the Disruption Network Club, we should invite her speaking about her own art, but today she's the moderator. So Margherita is an artist and researcher with a fascination for biological matter. Her installation and performances are chimeras intertwining poetics and controversy, working across bioart and performance. She owns a PhD in artistic research on bioart and queer theory at the University of Helsinki. She is also a member of the Finnish Bioart Society, the Eco and Bioart Research Network, and the Post-Humanities Hub. So, Margherita, now I leave the stage to you, and also thank for the great speaker that we have today to be with us. Thank you.
Hello, everyone, and thank you for being here, both in person as well through the data sphere. Yesterday I followed the conference online, and I must say it's done really well. It's a pleasure. So good job for everyone who's behind the machines. I'm happy to be at this panel with artists that I deeply admire, and I feel honored to be in conversation with you, especially about the topics that the Disruption Network has prepared for us. Because like the title is saying already, Biohacking Biocode, Social Revolt, Virtual Worlds, and Viral Love Biohack. So it tells a lot, in my opinion, about the potential of art to unravel possibilities, show different perspectives, which is actually one of the many things that art can do. But in the case of today, or the speakers that are here with us today, the focus is like the overlapping or the junction between gender in its whole and rich spectrum, technology, performance or performativity, data, but with an attention to reappropriate technology for artistic expression, but also for political purpose and for making the artist as an agent of change somehow. And to this regard, I would like to just, before we start talking, just mention one thing about biohacking, because there is something I found in an interview with Cheang on Reason from a couple of years ago. The journalist said, bodies are packages to be opened, minds are penetrable, sensations communicable, and orgasm objectable or collectible. So of course here the analogy to, or the metaphor to the data is very much presence. But if we think of the sentence, bodies are packages to be opened, it's clear how the hacking attitude to open up the black box of technology, of power. And I come from art working with technology, biotechnology in particular, and biology. but I come from the biohacking scene, so how to unpack the way that we know about organisms and biotechnology. And it has nothing to do with the biohacking understood as extension or reaching longevity and transhumanist ideals. So I think, but we can discuss about it later, what is at the center of the conversation today is how to use technology in critical ways to explore the potentials and poetics and politics of this relationship of bodies that are changing in times of advanced technology. So the first of the great speakers that we have today is Helena Velena. Helena Velena was born in Bologna in a male body. Was one of the initiators of the Italian Bolognese punk scene. She founded Iraf Punk and Multimedia Attack, a label that has produced about 80 records, by the way, also by artists that were much important to me. So thank you for doing this. So about 80 records discovering and producing. She was part in the psychedelic experience of the independent Radio Alice. When she finally turned into Helena in the 90s, she brought transgendered theories to Italy at the time where it was only classified as a pathological condition. She was also one of the pioneers of the internet and its role in the field of sexuality. She founded Cybercore, which offered various video messaging services and databases intended for different sexual minorities. She also produced other projects, among which book publications, various music contributions, and political paradigms. Thank you for being here.
As always, I will be a little deviating from the title of the panel, focusing more on talking about politics for a reason. In the previous panel, we have heard, we already know, it is important that we talk about this, how there is a big war from the Catholic world, from the religious organizations against gender identities. But there is more than that. If you remember well, when Eloquent Roseanne Stone wrote for the first time that she felt to be, after transitioning, to be something more than just male and something more than just female. She didn't want it to say that transgender people is better than biological females. She wanted to say that she felt to be a shaman. She felt to be a technological shaman. She felt that this technology transformed her in a shaman. And you know what is a shaman? A shaman is a two-spirited people, a two-spirited person that in many cultures from the far, far north of Siberia, is there, from the South America, from many parts of Africa, of Eastern countries, Japan, everywhere, the shamans, they were the psychiatrists, the psychotherapists of ancient worlds, of ancient cultures, because they were the people able to understand the male and the female psyche, and so they were helping people for this. So to be a techno-shaman means understanding, not being better, but understanding both worlds. But when she said that, and many other transgender people said that, then a big backlash started. She was called Janice Raymond. Tomorrow we will talk about this. She wrote a book, The Transsexual Empire, saying that we transgender people, we are constructions, some kind of robots created by the technological male elite to create fake females and put them inside feminist circles to control women. So, yeah, they are called, now we call them TERFs, trans-exclusive radical feminists. Or she said to me, Angela said to me, she preferred to call them farts, because they fart when they talk. Yeah. Okay, so that's strange, because she was a feminist, radical, left-wing, Marxist-Leninist theorist. So the biggest enemy of the transgender community now is not the Catholic world. The Catholic world is like the dragon that is dying but he tries to spit fire for the last time. But the Marxist-Leninist elite, after the Second World War, in Europe, they had lots of money. They got lots of money from the Soviet Russia. Italy and France, they had the two biggest communist parties in Europe. The biggest one was in Italy. Floods of money arrived. And this money was used to create a narrative that was a cultural one. We have a very important Marxist thinker in Italy that used to call this, Antonio Gramsci is his name, probably you ever heard of him. He called this the cultural, I can't remember the word, but it's the cultural hegemony of the bourgeois culture. Well, what did the Marxist-Leninists use this money for? To create an antagonistic hegemony. And it was the hegemony of the left-wing thinkers, of the Marxist-Leninists, or better say the Leninist thinkers. They created the Freudo-Marxian psychotherapy that you have read it, that is used to try to create conversion therapy on transgender people and homosexual people and lesbian people and whatever. They used science on their purpose. But what is their purpose? The purpose of Marxist-Leninists, it was to gain power and to make propaganda against America and against Israel. And so now they've reborn again with the war in Ukraine. We have seen Ukraine transgender people, how they are living this war. But if you go to Italy now, you got lots of people saying, no, Ukraine, they are all Nazi. They are all Nazi. Out of. They see everywhere they go, they see out of everywhere. They do not understand that in a country that has been 3 times under Soviet domination and doesn't want to be once again under this domination, maybe you can even use a swastika as an anti-communist symbol, not because you are a real Nazi. You are fighting for your country. Come on. But it doesn't matter. They need power. They need to establish power. And they are still talking about proletarian dictatorship. Come on, baby. We are in 2022. Proletarian dictatorship. What's that? Oh. The point is this, think about this. If you talk about biohacking with these people, they will tell you, biohacking, what's that? The big problem is big pharma. Big pharma. Capitalism, you have to fight capitalism. They don't understand that there are anarchist hackers. Oh, anarchists, what a weird word it is. Anarchy. What does it mean? Anarchy, situationism, postmodernism, post-structuralism are the theories that developed after the Second World War that were alternatives to Marxist-Leninism, that they were alternatives to communism, and they were trying to work for bettering the lives of the people. But without doing the right, you have to fight for the right battles. Palestinians! Oh, if you don't fight for Palestine, you are not a comrade. No, 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 no. And so. I don't want to lose my time talking about what are the good battles. But they were not talking about bettering the quality of life. Why? Because they needed to be the vanguard of the revolution. But if people hack themselves, if people use self-help, if people changes themselves with their minds, their will, because they are anarchists, because they study, because they are into post-structuralist theory. No, that's not good, because you can't control that people, because that people is making their own revolution, and this is not good. So, what happens then? In creating this weird scenario of a new countercultural point of view for everyone to be on the right battles, they started to fuse together with their so-called enemy, the capitalism. Now we have this big example of Alexander Dugin. Is a philosopher, is a writer, is a very, very, very important figure in Russia and in the world, even if very few people still know him. What is the theory of Alexander Dugin? You have to take fascism, Nazism, communism, Islamism, and fundamentalist Christianism. Put them all together and make them all fight for just one thing. The great Russia first and world domination. Call it communism, call it fascism, call it capitalism. Who the fucking cares? This is what they are trying to do. Okay? So, self-help, self-improvement, self-changing, self-growing, self-revolution is not good for them. And so, this happens. I want to make you an example about Italy. In last year, the ex-communist party that is now is called Partito Democratico, the Dems, the Democratic Party of Italy, made a proposal of a law about anti-discrimination of gay, lesbian, and transgender people. You can think that the biggest enemies of this law were the Christians, the Catholic organizations, as we said before, or the fascists, the extreme right. No. The biggest enemies were the TERFs, were the lesbian separatists, were the feminists, were the left-wing organization. They said, oh, through big pharma, you are trying to control the world because you want to realize post-humanism. Post-humanism, the big enemy. Yeah. We want to realize post-humanism. We want to become post-human. You know why? You know why? Let's study the history. I mean, when there were the human race and the gods, at a certain point, what happens? A guy falls down from the mount of the gods, with a very important treasure. He has got the fire, and he wants to give this gift to the human race. Prometheus, he gives the fire to the people. The fire is a weapon. The fire is very dangerous. You can get burned. The fire can destroy everything, yeah? Okay, alpha, omega. But the fire also can be used to warm us up, can be used to forge metals, create things, build up everything, can be used to cook food. Prometheus was punished. You know how? You know how? With your intestines eaten forever. Because of that. Because he wanted the human beings, sorry, not the man and woman, the human beings became post-humans, not just humans. They became like gods. Because if you study ancient mythology, the Greek one, the Romanian one, but also the Hindu one, because you know from the Hindu one, the other two were born, then you see that the humans, they can play with the gods. They can fuck with the gods. They can marry the gods. They can even kill the gods. They can aspire to become gods. And now with technology, that fire 2.0, we are very, very, very near in becoming gods ourselves. But who are our enemies? The people that pretend to have the control, the monopoly of suffering. The people that needs people to suffer, needs people to be poor, needs people to be sad, needs people to look for someone to teach them, to be their vanguard for a better quality. Being the communism, being the paradise, the religious paradise of every religion. It doesn't really mind. Now we have, think about it. It's strange that in this left-wing theory, nuclear energy is the evil, the complete evil, but nuclear energy is just fire, Prometheus fire 2.0. Yeah. It can cause a catastrophe. It's radioactive if you can't manage it. But if you can manage it, you will use it to create things, to warm us up as the original fire, to cook food as the original fire. But they tell us that nuclear energy is bad. Also in Germany, the Green Party used to say nuclear energy is bad. We have to buy gas from Russia because they got money from Russia. Because the studio of a deputy of the Green Party was the studio, the representative of Gazprom in Germany. Power, money. The same old thing, they don't want us to develop. But technology is something that you can use it. We can use it because technology is the norm of everything that happens. I mean, come on. Let's talk about music for a second. The people say that there are two kinds of music, acoustic and electronic. Okay, if I pluck a string of a guitar, it makes the vibration in the air. This is acoustic music. But the synthesizer works as a VCS, a volt-controlled current that creates a sound if you change it. And if I do like that, or this, You know what it is? It's electronic music. And you know why? Because everything that exists, this amplifier, this loudspeaker, the pavement, this microphone, her body, that cider, water, whatever around us is made of electrons, protons, neurons, quarks, neutrons, just mixed in a different way, but the same stuff. So this electronic music, because the electrons of one hand touch the electrons of the other hand. So simple. Electronic music is a demonstration that, I mean, talk about this. The first synthesizer was created in San Francisco, Buchla, before Jefferson Starship started to think about changing the world, playing the same old chords, A chords, with the same old notes and the same old melodies, when with the Buchla synthesizer you could create a universe of sounds. But no, they told us that that was the revolution, keeping with the tradition, keeping with the tradition. So, transgender person that is a techno-shaman, has the need to be the person that more experiment this. Because you know, sexuality, and Wilhelm Reich, in the 30s, during the Nazi era, he wrote a book called Mass Psychology of Fascism. In this book, he told everything that has to be told about the role of social control of sexuality to control any kind of politics and to create authoritarian ideologies, being them fascists, being them communists, being them whatever it takes, but not the free speech of anarchism, of situationism, of Deleuze and Guattari, that when someone asked to Deleuze, please came out as a gay, I said, no, I fought all my life to destroy any kind of labels. We are for the sexual nomadism. Everything is part of the roots network, the rhizome. Everything works, lives, transforms, goes in 10,000s of different directions on its own. So we, transgender people, that we are experimenting this and we are becoming techno-shaman, we have to cancel this idea of technology as the evil of humanity. We are in Germany now. The man machine, the Kraftwerk robot. No, no. Technology, as I said before, is part of nature. Technology is like the wind. It's the same thing as light, as a lemon. You can make music with a lemon, with a leaf. You can make music with everything, because everything is the same. And we have started to learn this. We can use biohacking, we can use, you know, stem cells, biology, we can do whatever we want, and we can work with art. With art, like this self-built instrument. Look what it can do.
Thank you, Helena, for bringing the fire into this room. But also some freshness in this ruthless flight and ride that you invited, all of us into a ruthless flight. I enjoyed it very much. Thank you. But this is something I really like about the panel, about this panel, that it brings together some different layers and perspective, because it offers us the possibility to reflect on very deeply political and historical aspects that, in a way, connect to intimate and individual experiences in the life of us panelists and also in the audience. So I'm thankful for this. And it's time to move to our next speaker, another artist I deeply admire. Actually, you're like a legend to me, so you know. Cheang. Cheang is an artist and filmmaker whose work aims to re-envision genders, genre, and operating structures. Her genre-bending gender hacking practice challenged the existing operating mechanisms and the boundaries imposed on society, geography, politics, and economic structures. As a net art pioneer, her Brandon was the first web art commissioned and collected by the New York Solomon Guggenheim Museum. Her feature-length films, Fresh Kill, IQ, and Fluid Zero, respectively termed eco-cybernoia, sci-fi cyberpunk, and sci-fi cypherpunk, seek to define a genre of new queer sci-fi cinema. From homesteading cyberspace in the 90s to her current retreat to post-net crash Bionet zone, Cheang takes on viral love, Biohack in her current cycle of works. Julie is currently at work on Uki, a sci-fi viral alt reality cinema. Thank you for being here with us.
Great, the title. Thank you. Thank you. First, I want to acknowledge that I would be mostly talking about the film. I'm currently in production, post-production in Berlin, titled Yuki. And I want to acknowledge that my producer, Jürgen Bunin, and my 3D designer, Lohan Loth, they are both here, right? Thank you. It's been a great pleasure to be working in Berlin for my fourth feature film and have a great queer community in Berlin that support my work, that I could work in a very happy way. Anyway, so I'm gonna talk about basically the movie that I'm making. It started with, in 2000, I make a science fiction cyberpunk film titled IKU. At that time, it was premiered at Sundance Film Festival, with many people walk out, but that's another thing. So the movie IKU actually tells the story of IKU, means iku. IKU iku actually means orgasm in Japanese. So it tells the story of these IKU coder or iku coders are actually replicants, and they are dispatched by the internet porn enterprise named Zeno Corporation. And they actually send out to collect human orgasm data. So for me, orgasm is just a matter of data collection. So these eco coders are actually the sex machine that with a whole kind of body machine body. So the body is a hard drive basically. So they went out to collect human eco data, and once the data is full, the hard drive is full, the data will get downloaded. Don't look at me so, it's a science fiction. You can do anything with a science fiction. You're like, believe me, actually, you have to believe me, there are IKU equal data. So these equal data are made into chips, and was back in, when I was making the film was 1998, 1999. So it was really the beginning of mobile phone in Japan, in Tokyo. This film was made in Tokyo. And so of course, the beginning of mobile phones, so these orgasm data will be made into equal chips, and you could actually buy it on the vending machine, and they are color sorted, so you can have like blue orgasm or you can have pink orgasm. Basically, this is Zeno Corporation's big scheme to make money out of the human orgasm data. The film came out, and it sort of was quite successful in its own way. It became a kind of cyberpunk classic in a way. Oh no, it actually made me into a cult director somehow, so the more underground in that way. So by 2009, I have been thinking about this movie, and I've been thinking about my own existence, and basically by 2009, I claim we are already post-internet, post-net crash, so I got out of the internet and built, or basically I called it the Bionet, retreated to Bionet, and to begin a cycle of our practice, I would call it Vital Love Biohack. In this way, I conceived the sequel to IKU movie, and it would be titled Yuki. It's just a lazy way, just like reverse the three characters, right? This was when I conceived this movie, Yuki was 2009, and at that time, I was working at the Barcelona in the Hanga Media Lab, and since from 2009, about 2009 to 2016, I tried to make the concept into performance like live cinema performance. I make it into a game. I could never imagine I could make into a feature film for this movie. So only now, will be 13 years later, I'm now in post-production for Yuki. By this time also, I have to rename the film into a sci-fi viral alt reality cinema. The title Yuki actually referred to the name of the virus, actually named Yuki. So Yuki is actually Yuki the virus. In the film, if I would have to say in one sentence, it would be Yuki, the cinema, engages Yuki, the virus, as infiltrating agents to sabotage the detrimental bioscheme engineered by Zeno Corporation. So now, today, I'm very happy to have listened to the previous panel, particularly on the science, and if science will save us, and the speculation on how in a way, how the play out of the science in the transgender transitioning technologies. But I want to take you into a sci-fi scenario again. It's a science fiction. So let's imagine a post-net, after the crash scenario for a biotech enterprise. This would be the Zeno Corporation. The Zeno Corporation also is very smart. They figure out the internet porn business is out of business because now we have post-porn. Everybody's doing DIY porn, right? So the Zeno Corporation decided to also get out of the internet and resurface as a biotech enterprise. Now, as a biotech enterprise going into bioengineering, the first thing the Genome Corporation did is actually takes human body hostage to initiate the bionet, and the bionet would be a network made out of re-engineered red blood cells. And so there's a whole story about how you take over human body to initiate bionet. For example, the Genome Corporation first you cultivate the bacteria that codes the human DNA with the orgasm data. Through the red rain fallout, the bacteria will enter human body and takes over the red blood cells. Now, the red blood cells is, usually red blood cells is more like carry the blood, sort of more like a transporting system in the human body. But by this time, the red blood cells actually become a microcomputing unit and is able to regenerate the human orgasm data into your body. So basically, we enter into an era that you really don't need to interface with anybody for sexual pleasure. So basically, you should be able to generate your own orgasm data, right? So this is like through years of corporation bioengineering, now you have actually possibility with the red blood cell to encode and processing the DNA data in that way, right? So here we are, the bionet represents our body have been occupied, colonialized, and the cities are under siege, the people are infected, and Genome Corporation sets out to conspire a profitable biotech engineering scheme. So basically, at this time, the orgasm is just a data that could be self-generated. However, how would an enterprise like Genome Corporation make money if people are just doing orgasm, right? How are they going to make money?
Telling our experiences.
Good. So, yes. So there's a bigger scheme about the bionet as a network is actually how to connect every human body as a node and how make people feel like you have to the need to exchange the orgasm data. And in this case, in the scenario, it became by handshake. My handshake, give me a hand. By shaking your hand, I actually get your web data, right? But in the process, that exchange of web data can also be collected by the Genome Corporation. At the end, the Genome Corporation would be able to make a pill, a red blood cell pill. And this is even more profitable. You just have to buy a red blood cells and get orgasm, right? Don't you like that? I'm going to show a clip about how the Genome Corporation's scientists try to study this phenomenon. Yeah. Let me see. Can I see that? Oh, sorry. Yeah. We have sound, right?
Options we have: upregulate endorphin pathways by either increasing the production of neurotransmitters, upregulating expression of receptors, or both. PIMC gene could be delivered as part of the DNA cassette transferred during the handshake, incorporated into the subject genome.
How about the other options? Inhibit epinephrine? The DNA cassette transmitted during the handshake could contain suppressor for adrenergic receptors promoters?
Perhaps temporary increase in estrogen production, if the recipient is female. Neurotransmitters would be safer because they're gender neutral. If we want to use sex hormones, we would have to have two versions.
DNA could contain cell type specific neuron promoter. use the molecules as transmitting agents, aiming at immediate boost. Intense, but short-lived. Not unlike a hit of drug.
The chance for Sleeping Beauty transposon homing to the wrong chromosome and this DNA integrating into stable, irreversible transgenic variations is too grave. At the end, we may risk the collapse of the endocrine system.
Operation Harvest can be activated with an added dose of the infection plasmid. We're detecting immediate boost and reuptake inhibition of several neurotransmitters, leading to instant gratification feelings in all subjects. We need to move forward. The question is, how far can we push?
Our pharma partners have all the setup ready to go for processing data. The data mining is conducted on a regular basis from the samples delivered by the subjects after the handshake transmission. The interlocking of bionet nodes for data acquisition is in crucial state. Any loose chain or mismatched DNA sequence signals a system breakdown. The population growth of Gen Beta has to be maintained, which we can do with sustained handshake transmission.
Meanwhile, the enhanced sensexual autoinduction is working profoundly. The data transfer and collection all in perfect working order.
Ultimately, we might end up with steroid hormone levels crossing the thresholds of established male.
Sorry. Yeah. Oh, pardon. Oh, well, it suddenly got very bright, no? Did it? Why?
System is hacking.
Oh, okay. So this is actually more like a little sketch about how the bionet is created with four scientists having the conversation. As far as the film goes, that it actually points out like how bioscience created the glitch. Because of the glitch that normally you went through this data transaction, but then this data transaction can actually, through the DNA change, is actually changing your gender configuration. So here comes the mode of non-binary new gender can be created totally because of the sort of the glitch in the DNA management in a way. I am very interested in science and glitch, how the science can tolerate glitch. And the fiction, any kind of fiction can further expand the glitches. Zeno Corporation come out with the term, it's called Operation Harvest. And so it is through the handshake, in which I also want to use the 64K modern connection soundtrack. It is through these handshake that web data are exchanged, harvested, and repurposed. Of course, in creating the red pill, the Zeno Corporation works hand in hand with the pharmaceutical industry to harvest the orgasm data transaction. For me, coming from the sort of living through the AIDS pandemic or living through the AIDS pandemic, I keep coming back to the corporation and pharmaceutical and the states, how they work hand in hand, and actually totally taking human body into the experiment. And so this is what's happening. Maybe 30, maybe 20% of the film kind of follow what's being developed in the biolab with the Zeno Corporation. At the meantime, the question comes to set your electric sheet free range. It is 2060. What do you do with aspire humanoids? So we had to bring back Reiko. Reiko is actually the name of the EQ coder in the IKU, the movie, now been 3D avatar, been 3D'd So I want to talk about what happened to Reiko, the eco-coder. Of course, the end of the movie or IKU actually shows the eco-coder Reiko actually have the data downloaded and basically is out of function, it's defunct. And so what do you do with a defunct replicant? The best way seems to be managed by dumping them as a piece of e-trash in the e-trash bill, and the e-trash bill would be located somewhere in the continent. And of course, this is also based on some research about how we have created and dumped so much electronic trash in Africa, and the way that Imagine Reiko is done at the e-trash bill. And the e-trash bill will have all the transmutants, the hackers, the coders, the geese, the migrants, the refugees, the laborers, all staying here at the e-trash bill. Reiko, as an outside, kind of totally defunct body, will go through the encounter, a journey with encountering all these different people, different creatures. By this time, we have to talk about these creatures at e-trash bill. They are transmutants. They are totally beyond trans, no? Anyway, so here is a journey for Reiko to reprogram, in the process to actually have to learn how to reprogram herself. And in the process, actually also going different degrees of transitioning, gender or racial-wise. By the end, basically, Reiko will probably be trading sex for codes, and codes, sex and codes. And finally, Reiko will go through also the human, non-human transitioning and emerged amidst the noise blast to declare themselves as Yuki the virus. I will show the very brief, kind of more of a discussion taken from taken from the film, but this is more introduction of the Reiko characters and how Reiko gone through at the e-trash bill. Need to make it into full view. I have no idea because I just touched the somewhere. Could you just turn this into the full view? Sorry. Could I have the music a bit louder if possible? The soundtrack, yeah. Okay.
Reiko is a replicant eco-coder. Yenum Company owns Reiko. Reiko is dispatched to the human world to collect orgasm data. Full hard drive of orgasm data downloaded, Reiko is deemed redundant. Reiko is dumped as a piece of e-trash by Yenum Company. Reiko lies horizontally amidst the AC charger, fans, motherboards, PCB. Reiko attempts to get up, but the body is glitched. She can barely keep the body aligned in shape. Water drops are sprayed abruptly onto Reiko's face. Reiko's face appears as water flow. Reiko's clear water face reflects Varia's pockmarked face in black and white. Reiko's body is taking new shape, blobs pumping gently like bread dough rising. Alba stretches their tentacles and wraps Reiko's ever-forming dough body. Sketch approaches Reiko to add a few charcoal strokes for a bodysuit. Amidst the stacked PCB boards, something is moving from underneath. A copper-colored Reiko appears, revealing a body embedded with circuited patterns. A Zeno Silver 2020 processor. 122, 5 GHz, 128-bit, born year 2020. Reiko's finger traces the circuits, matrix of lines and circles is lit up. Violet throws a robot arm at Reiko. Reiko attaches the robot arm to her right arm, picking up e-trash. Reiko's circuited body shifts alignment. Zeno's testicle-like device beams laser light over Reiko's shifting circuited body. Zeno injects her DNA codes onto Reiko. Reiko rewrites own codes. Code scrambled onto Reiko's brown-colored iris. Ozone bends down, sucking codes out of Reiko's iris. Reiko makes a sudden sneeze, discharging micro-droplets into the air. The viral micro-droplets take over Reiko's body. Virus becoming. Uki the virus is born.
Just want to read the last one. Thank you. Okay. Living with the virus. Learning to confront, to embrace, to love the virus manifests our very existence. We are part of the science fiction play out with bioinformatics, bioengineering, and mobile digital media. We have forsaken the prosthesis cyber body and made kins with microbe. Bacteria, fungi, archaebacteria, protease, green alga, plankton, planarian amoeba are put under the microscopes as we study them, adopt them, and embed them into our collective open source body. We have departed from the gender binary and deviated into transgenic discourse. To live with the virus is to transmutate our bodies, teleporting our viral body into a brand new ecosystem. Thanks.
Thank you, Shuli. I'm also happy because watching the video tonight, I realized that a few months ago you did a beautiful presentation with Matthew Fuller with some with some elements of the first clip. So it's great to follow how the work is developing. And of course, like there is so much to do. We will talk more in detail about it in the conversation session later, like how you, of course, the work anticipates things that we have been experiencing in the last years. And of course, there I see how artists very often act as antennas and sense things, sense weak signals before they arrive. And something you also just mentioned, how talking about gender and the whole ecosystem that is a human body, like if we think of the gut microbiome, the skin microbiome, the microbiome, the sexual organs, of course, then the idea of humans as something that can be classified into two categories, of course, loses its ground itself. So I also think your work has a nice artistic connection with the work of Jira, and I'm happy to introduce you now. Jira Duguid is a professional non-10 creator and self-taught new media artist working with game engines in order to commodify dreams, nightmares, and memories for mass distribution online. Jira releases both solo work and collaboration with her two conspirators on collective label Fantasia and Malware. Some of you may have enjoyed the performance a couple of days ago. Exploring video games as a form of live performance. From 2015 to 2020, Jira worked predominantly with game art, with art game collective AAA software, releasing 3 video games, Dystropicana, Data Mutations, and Utopias, Navigating Without Coordinates. Jira also co-hosts the Unhinged podcast New Genesis Online, investigating such topics such as trans life, queer sex, and the Dreamcast. The stage is yours.
Hello, everyone. Okay, so hello, I am Jira. Something that has become apparent to me the longer I have lived out as a trans person is the enormous range of experiences throughout the trans umbrella. As much as my early transition, I wished for some kind of simple universal experience. It is simply not the case. And so I have realized I can speak only for myself and no one else. So please, everything I'm about to say, please listen to it as only my own reflections of my own life and relationship to my gender, not as some kind of term, whatever. So you can think I'm cringe, you can think I'm embarrassing, but I'm not cancelable, okay? Okay. Okay. How am I going to do this? Don't enter mirror. My earliest memories are of a private, serene disembodiment. It was morning, the dawn of the silicon sun, the beginning of the three-dimensional interactive video game entertainment. Lacking the literacy to understand, these mysterious iridescent discs did not contain mere goal-oriented toys, but instead secret entrances to entire living virtual worlds. My memories of this time in my life is not that of a boy cross-legged, grey controller on grey carpet. It is of myself soaring through polygonal realities of lurid plastic beauty, boundless, bodiless. In video games, you are often no one. You are like some kind of invisible force, willing change into the universe, driving other entities. It is unclear where you begin or end. This suited me well. In time, what I would miss most from this era was the solitude it brought. There was a serenity to having your own private, virtual self in an otherwise physical world. It felt so intimate, a similarity to dreams, and they could only happen within me, not experienced or shared by anyone other than myself. I feel grateful to have experienced this short-lived era, yet the silicon sun continued to rise, and with my own eyes, I saw the iridescent discs grow tendrils, networking into each other. The simplicity was lost, yet no longer was I alone in my virtual world. Instead, I shared it with every living person on the planet. It was a time of incredible change. Suddenly, information was democratized. The virtual worlds connected and impossibly large to comprehend. Yet now, as I shared this place, now I was perceived, and therefore no longer bodiless. It was during this time I began entering puberty. Confused of my emerging sexuality and the dissonance between myself and the expectations placed upon me, I once again turned to the hall of networked mirrors for answers. I discovered many fascinating forms. I wish to share with you now some of these early discoveries. This is MPreg, or male pregnancy, specifically depicting characters from the Japanese anime Dragon Ball Z. Vegeta pregnant with a child shared with Goku. Images such as these were commonplace on the perhaps aptly named DeviantArt.com. DeviantArt was a kind of early social media for sharing user-created artwork, probably the first website I signed up for, partially to upload my own drawings and mostly to view age-restricted amateur hentai. There are, of course, countless subgenres of these communities, such as 4, Unbirthing, Guru, Giantess, Tentacles, to name only a few. However, there are two others in particular I wish to call attention to, two fantasies of the internet that seem to have persisted throughout the decades. The first is the Fairy Fandom, a subculture of anthropomorphic animal alter egos. Furries, as they are known, maintain a unique community. Most furries have alter egos, aka fursonas, and they socialize with other furries online on forums, chat rooms, in perhaps the largest and longest ongoing LARP of all time. There is also a significant visual component to the furry community, with furry artists receiving commissions from furries to draw their personas. Some of it is platonic, often it is erotic. The second form of internet fantasy is futanari, or futa, chicks with impossibly enormous dicks, splurting buckets of cum like fire hoses. There was often an aspect of humiliation on the part of the futanari woman, like her horse cock was a source of great shame and embarrassment, burgeoning out of her panties as she trips in her high heels. Another trope was often there was a lot of sexual aggression on the part of the futanari woman. Years later, I remember being about 18 years old and sheepishly entering an all-hours adult store of garish yellow painted cinder blocks with a friend who wanted to check it out. It was not what I expected. Instead of all the toys and leather I was expecting, it was instead like a hoarder's room of cheaply made DVDs. And yet there was something odd about these DVDs. Although there was a handful of the generic, typical porn I was expecting, the vast majority of it was chicks with dicks. Blonde bimbos with rock-hard double Ds and veiny monster cocks. Somehow, the crudely drawn anime women from internet forums had become real. I was confused as to who these people were. Was this what a drag queen was? Were they hermaphrodites, intersex people? Women somehow born with a fully developed penis and an otherwise female body? This confused me due to the sheer magnitude of the DVDs. Surely this kind of intersex body couldn't be this common. If it were an intersex condition, when statistically only a fraction of these people go into porn at all? Where are all the others? Were they among us? Had I ever met a woman like this and not known it? Why had I never heard about this? Over the years, I slowly started noticing other cracks in the mirrors. These images of fantasy oozing out into the real world. Did you know annually in Berlin there is Euference, the largest furry convention in Europe? For a weekend, these cartoon wolves and bears, these imagined alter egos, become real. Taking form, they dance, they make friends, they fuck each other in hotel rooms, they support and validate each other's inner self, and for just one weekend, create a new world in which they belong. Before once more returning to the mirror from which they came. This is the part you've probably been waiting for, where I tell you where I had my breakthrough, of how I knew I had to completely change every aspect of my life and myself. As children, teenagers, young people, we look outward to the world for role models, stories, worlds in which to find ourselves. What do you do and who do you become when there was no one? When left alone, raised by the refractions of light from wolves of shimmering glass, do you too become no one, nothing at all? To be feminine in any way was so utterly taboo that it became literally unimaginable to me. The point I am trying to make with all this is without the right to exist, I dove into the strange, unregulated, forgotten places of other people's dreams and fantasies, preserved in silicon and plastic, scavenging the detritus of fringe websites, sticky carpet adult stores, and sweat and cum-stained fursuits in order to find myself. It all makes me wonder, what else do we not know? What else is presently unimaginable, yet to be discovered in the ooze leaking out of some forgotten cracked corner? Are you even now looking at yourself through patterns of light so distorted you cannot yet recognize yourself within them. The whole stretch infinitely and recursively. Sometimes I wish I could find my way back, but I know by now that I am too far gone. I entered the mirror and I regret nothing. Surprise, it's not over. How long do we have? Okay, so now we reach the second part. I am going to do a live playthrough of a game I made with Fantasia Malware, which is a collective of me and two others, Chloe Langford and Gabriel Helfenstein. You can play it yourself at St. Fiona Bianco Zeno.fantasiamalware.net. Okay. I have like low blood sugar, so I'm like struggling to hold this microphone right now, but we can try. Okay. Sorry. The slug mane of St. Fiona Bianco Zeno. Okay. Slugs have long been associated with the cult of St. Fiona Bianco Zeno, presumably because of the common practice of using maintenance worms for the cleaning and conservation of religious relics. In the 90s, a popular revival of St. Fiona led to a trend amongst one of our collaborators is French influencers who enjoyed filming themselves with pink slug wigs while performing various stunts. Recently, a growing movement has been campaigning to reclaim the slug mane as a symbol of female empowerment. The boots of St. Fiona. Rumored to have been worn by St. Fiona Biancozina during the Great Plagues of 1926, the boots allow their owner to dance beyond exhaustion, thus reaching a new state of conscious enlightenment. The boots are currently in possession of Anselm Faber Finch Jr., one of St. Fiona's most prominent biographers and author of the annual 30 Saints Under 30 list. Faber Finch has been criticized for his overly sexualized portrayal of St. Fiona, spending much of the first half of his book focusing on St. Fiona's many lovers, ranking them from 1 to 30 according to their perceived hotness. Saint Fiona Biancozina, Mother of the Motherless. Saint Fiona Biancozina's journey to holiness begins with her humble career as a gig slug farmer for private medical institutions. On one fateful evening, during her routine deliveries to Slug Corp, Saint Fiona happened to encounter a young trans woman named November preparing to end her own life from the Sector 9 overpass. November was hopeless beyond despair, having been rejected by her own family and endlessly gate-kept from the hormones she so desperately needed to survive. Empathizing with a fellow trans woman's exclusion to the autonomy and love she needed, Saint Fiona had the epiphany she could harness the hermaphroditic slime her slugs produced to create a new, inexpensive form of hormone therapy suitable for self-administration. Saint Fiona vowed to November to provide for her, to love her absolutely, and to protect her as her own daughter, and so she was. And so too in this moment began the genesis of what would come to be known as the Crystal Eye Network. Saint Fiona's sacred bond to her first daughter was kept for the remainder of her life, as was her maternal duties to all the trans orphans she would nurture as her own. Saint Fiona's exact number of adoptions is disputed. However, most Fionologists agree she had 333 children. I'm going to refresh the page, it's acting weird. Okay. Saint Fiona's braid of wrath. Followers of Saint Fiona Bianco Zeno style their hair in a braid in honor of her braid of wrath. Saint Fiona's braid of wrath is today held by the Six Dercian Cathedral GmbH, who sell portions of her life force channeling hair for upwards of 1,000 sigets per strand. The trial. This little wax figure was commissioned by Baldock Stanley, 28th Earl of Gunwell, to use as a bathtub plug. It depicts the Carmine trial, when it was decided to grant sainthood to the late Saint Fiona Bianco Zeno. Present at her trial were her son Francis the Ungrateful, the last survivor of her 399th children, her biographer Anselm Faber-Finch Jr., her guardian angel Puritanius, and her first lover Igor, seen here face-palming, a gesture presumably symbolizing the decline of the Western happy times. The figure in the back remains mysterious, but it is believed to be her executioner Laren, who fed Saint Fiona to a cornucopia of starved hormone slugs. The fruits of Saint Fiona Bianco Zeno. After her death, Saint Fiona Bianco Zeno's body was dissected by mercenaries who were looking for spare bio parts. Given her reputation, Saint Fiona was expected to have valuable wares on or in her person. When they slit her open, they were shocked to find that she was carrying a number of tropical fruits. One of these fruits, either a mango or a grandula, later hatched the first firm-bred child, leading to a subsequent revolution in artificial reproduction techniques. The Six Dercian Altar. Found in the rubble of the Six Dercian Cathedral after the Great Crypto War, This life-size sculpture depicts the birth of Saint Fiona Bianco Zeno. Looking over her is the angel Mithridon, who usually represents the wrath of God, prompting archaeologists to wonder if the altar was made in honor of Saint Fiona, or rather to imply that she was a fraud. Over the years, the legacy of Saint Fiona has increasingly been scrutinized. Amongst other things, she has been accused of trading sexual favors with a tiny abbot in order to secure her posthumous sainthood. The Martyrdom of Saint Fiona Bianco Zeno. The rising popularity of Saint Fiona's activism in DIY slug meds rendered her a direct competitor to multinational pharmaceutical conglomerate Slug Corp, an entity who previously had an extortive monopoly on the distribution of slug produce. After ongoing legal threats and a loss of over 33% in stocks, Slug Corp initiated an all-out assault upon the Crystal Eye Network HQ that will come to be known as the Great Slug Massacre of 2022. Knowing Slug Corp would murder all her beloved children and seize the shell vials vital to their survival, Saint Fiona took a final stand against the private army. Her children evacuated as Saint Fiona stole the invaders. It is said Saint Fiona survived a barrage of arrows that would kill a man 10 times over. The private contractors shot her until she was as full as arrows as a sea urchin is full of pricks, and yet she still stood against the onslaught. Additionally, the assailants claimed, in response to their assault, she merrily danced as if she were in a ghostly duet. However, her dancing partner was nowhere to be seen. According to tradition, it is believed this unknown partner of Saint Fiona was the spirit of all persecuted trans people before her, giving her the strength she needed to protect her children one last time. Dankeschön. Okay.
Is it open now? Yes, thank you. Thank you, Jira, for bringing us into your world and for sharing this very delicate account of your experience that I found deeply touching on many layers. And then thank you also for bringing us into the lyrical world of Saint Fiona with these rich texts in references to religion, mythology.
You're welcome.
So now it's time for us to exchange a little bit of ideas, starting from what we have shared. So I'd like to just a quick mention. We'll discuss among us first, and then we will open the mic to the audience. So in case you have questions, prepare them. We'll be with you in about 20-25 minutes. So as we mentioned in the introduction, the panel has attempted to unpack the politics and poetics of body technologies in relation to gender, sex, and transitioning. It's also interesting to mention how the perspectives that are presented on stage are very diverse, because we have trans people, non-trans people, people of different age, and also from different backgrounds. So I think this can lead us to a rich conversation. And in order to throw some stones into your pond and see how you react. I've brought you something I wrote recently. It's from my dissertation. It's actually about to be published. So I'm not a PhD yet, but in a few months I will be. So almost there. Just, because in the field of queer studies, well, my experience comes from reflections about technology and ecology. So I come from the field of queer ecologies and queer death studies, and going back how the topic has been addressed. I am very thankful to scholars who have made a point to queer nature. So in this, there is two instances that are brought up. One is to understand nature, and with that also the human body, beyond binaries, human, non-human. As you mentioned earlier, we are in a post-human time. But also beyond the dichotomies that otherwise structure Western thought. And on the other hand, to use queer not only as an adjective that refers to like a spectrum of gender identities, but also as an action. And I think that through your work, you all brought that up, maybe not intentionally, but you all made me think of these scholars. And just to credit them, I'm referring to the work of Katriona Sandilands, and then more recently, Nina Like, Marietta Radomska. So I like the idea, and maybe we can think about it together, of using this identity or this spectrum as something to unpack the black box that is otherwise presented by mainstream culture. This is my stone to the pond. You can react to it or not as you wish, but I also have questions for you. I will go chronologically. Now, Helena, I also come from Italy. And therefore, your presentation brings up a lot of things for me. But you know, you have been outrageously ahead of your time for already some decades, and you have seen the changes and possible transformations of a very complex country as Italy, which also happens to be the place where I come from. But you know, you also talk a lot about power in your work. I was a queer kid from the province, from the countryside, so it took me a while to get to certain awareness and to certain ideas. It was a very long process for me. And I think sometimes I see myself thinking, okay, what if I were the same person as 20 years ago, but now? What has changed in the meantime? And also with your experience in transitioning already 3 decades ago, you have experienced and brought up those things very early on. So maybe you have something to say of how this has changed and transformed in the last years.
The first thing that I want to talk about is the fact of the queer nature that you were mentioning before, because this is really interesting to me. Because I think that when we talk about post-humanism, it doesn't not means to go further in the way of human development and so became cyborgs, that we have already done that. But it means also to become something more than that. So if we try to think about the future, studying the past, then we see that the nature is queer. Not because there are, we know that there are many animals that are transitioning, many fishes, then if there are a scarcity of males, some of the males became, some of the females became males or vice versa, or whatever, or I mean, we know about the transgender in the animal realm, but the thing is another one. For example, the animals and the plants, the fungi, the mushrooms, they show us different kinds of life, different kind of communication, of organization, of creating and supporting our desires. Plants, animals, fungi, they, all of them, they produce drugs, and they enjoy using drugs. The drugs are something that in our culture has been criminalized. For example, in all the European countries, there are laws about all the substances, natural substances, starting from mushrooms, but lots of other plants that are forbidden to be smoked, to be eaten, to be ingested. This is totally crazy, because this is part of the nature. And the animals, they eat these substances. They create these substances. They use it for their enjoyment. So nature, I mean, political ideology is something that is against nature, because it tends to create an idea that someone can find a solution for someone else. In the nature spectrum, everything works just fine. Everything just fits in and does things in a completely different manner. We are talking about, for example, in science fiction, but also in the superhero world of comic books. There are lots of superheroes that they take their powers from animals. Why? Because animals have got superpowers. Helicopters, aeroplanes, drones, lots of new technologies. Has been created by studying animals and studying how animals reacted in a certain situation and how they can try to find the best for them. So to become post-human means also to become something that relates with nature, that relates with the environment, that relates with the air, water, and whatever. So it means to go towards the future, being aware of the past. That's the reason for I was talking about mythology, because it's so important, because it's the history of our world before the arrival of the first big ideology. And we know what it is monotheism, is Christianism. We have 1,600 years of domination. But back to the second question, in a way I've experienced this, because when I started transitioning, I mean, one of the panelists before had a T-shirt of transsexual minays. Where is after we will talk about this, because many years ago I went to San Francisco and I went to meet a transgender woman that was an engineer at Apple. She was called Anne Ogburn. She was one of the founders of transsexual minays at the time. And I didn't transition yet at the time. And she went up to me and she said, go back to Italy and be yourself. And see what it happens. And I said, no, it's too difficult, because all the people in Italy that has transitioned, we didn't use that word at the time. All the transsexual people, that was the word that we were using, transgender, is just starting, Transsexual International, other organizations. All the transsexual people, they were sex workers. Or better said, they were into prostitution. This is different, because sex work, it means many kind of creative work that you can do in submission, domination, BDSM, fetish. You can do lots of very creative, stimulating, and interesting sex work. But prostituting yourself because you want to be accepted and you feel that you are a real woman just because a man pays you to have sex with you, when then, after a while, you realize that what he wants is just your dick, and the tits, dick and tits. He wants the she-male that we have seen in the magazines before. He doesn't want you to transition to become a woman. And all the stories, they were, oh, I lost all my customers because I did the sex reassignment surgery. So I went back to Italy and didn't know what to do. But I decided to do what I wanted to do. And since I was into punk, for me it was very easy. Because in the punk scene, it was an anarchist scene. And anarchy means that you have you take 100 people, and every one of these people has a different taste, desire, needs, whatever. Communism means that the central government decides what is the best for everyone. But in anarchism, it's not like that. So every kind of deviant expression of yourself, it means that you are starting to be free to express what you are inside. And so it was fantastic to me to transition inside the punk community. At a certain point, I went to London, and then but it's important. I went to London and I found an organization that was called Friends for Transvestites. And so I decided to go there. And the old lady that was organizing this group, she said to me that for her, punks were very, very important because they taught her the courage to be yourself. Because at the time, the transvestites, they were taking a cab at night to go to the club. Inside the club, they went in the back rooms and they dressed up. Then they stayed in the class, dancing, chatting, flirting, whatever. Then they dressed down again, they took a cab and they went home. Punks, on the contrary, with men with fishnets, hard drugs, green hair, spikes, whatever, they were roaming the street and saying, okay, I'm against you, and I'm showing you, I'm different from you, and I'm showing it with my clothes, with my body, with my appearance. I'm against, I'm something different, I'm just myself. And this was so important for this transvestite community in London. So that's the reason for, before I made this speech against the left-wing ideology of a Marxist-Leninist perspective. Because we need political support in our art, in our activity. But we need a political support that is non-ideological, non-theological, that is libertarian. And so we really need to go to this path, because otherwise, in this period, everything that we do, art, creating communication, creating everything that we do is highly political, just for one reason, because the backlash against us and against all this is political. So we have to become aware of this and become political as well. And the experience of punk, it was so important just because of this.
Yeah.
Showing that it was possible to be yourself, and Berlin shows this every day. You go around in the street, it's a European capital of punk. It was, it still is. But this means one thing, you can be yourself. This is politics. And this I learned because I had to pass through a situation in which there was nothing. There was also only prostitution. There was not a political conscience on being transgender, and we had to create it. So let's create the next step from now on.
Let's do it. And that also brings me to something I wanted to ask to Julie, because your work has this strong cyberpunk or cypherpunk narrative. So maybe you can also tell us something about what this had, about what role that had in your own work. And there was also something I was thinking while watching the movie about this dystopia that you are describing, that from this dystopia there is something like, there is a wasteland of motherboards, and then the attempt to mend bodies, of course mend them not restoring the initial way, but like to dealing with the complexity that they find the same. So I found this mending very interesting, if seen with a hacking eye.
Yeah, I guess to follow what you say, I mean, in terms of what's the next step, and between the cyberpunk, as I say, I make the film about cyberpunk and cypherpunk, because then we got into like how we have to sort of protecting the data. So we actually have to make cryptography, and so we can protect the data. And to the film I'm doing now, which is again is about data being collected. And but I think at the end, to create a virus, then I would have to come back to what Drew also was saying yesterday about. For me, it's about infiltrating the system of sabotage. Because, you know, maybe these are like kind of words that we have to keep bringing it up, and maybe using different way of technology or different way of working through it. You know, how do we infiltrate? Do you work from within to fight, or you work from outside, you infiltrate, or you work from within and you sabotage? I think I create Yuki the virus exactly for the reason to figure out how would be the best way to fight the corporation. Yeah.
And that actually leads me to the question I had for you, Jira, because how to infiltrate a system. Of course, I assume we are talking a way of infiltrating something, the black box, that offers new ways of creating empathy, mutual help, communities. But how is it for you to work in an environment, the game design environment, that also is maybe, I don't know whether the word is correct, but somehow dominated by big corporations, and instead you're working independently in this in this field? So how is it for you also, thanks to your experience of transitioning, to address a world that is otherwise very strongly dominated by big powers? I'm a big fan of indie games. I don't play a lot, but I'm a fan of indie games, yes.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I think what we're doing is, it's like we're using game engines, and we're like, you know, like a lot of us play games or used to play games, but I kind of almost think of it as like an entirely different like concept. Like, I think that there's like, I don't know. It's very strange to work with game engines in a way that's like not for commercial interests. Like, I don't know. My brain is fried because I was writing this until about 5 minutes ago.
No, we can continue the conversation
Okay.
with the audience and
Yeah.
open the mic. And of course, if you feel like saying something more about it, or maybe
Okay.
a better question than mine inspires you, then we can continue. So we'll get 2 questions each time, or 1 question each time, Tatiana. 1, we can go with 1. Right, so we have 1 question from the... How many? Yes, so maybe we can begin from the online audience and then bring it back to the room.
So the question from the online audience is for Shuli. What happens if one were to organically experience a pink orgasm? I'm assuming I would have to pay royalties. Or would the program eliminate the possibility of my organic pink experience?
Totally cannot understand it.
Yeah, it's a question about the world where Uki lives. So what happens if one were to organically experience a pink orgasm? Will the system eliminate the possibility of this organic pink experience? It's someone which is interested in coming to live in that world, I guess, so, or already from that world.
So,
Can you decode this?
yeah, we are
question for
lost
me?
in coding now.
Yes, decode this question for me. About the experience of the orgasm.
Yeah, do you think that for this person it's possible to experience a pink orgasm without being eliminated by the program?
Eliminated by who?
By the program. So
By the
is it possible to experience a pink orgasm without being eliminated by the program?
Which program?
And,
Okay,
but
so
in
maybe it's
I think in
another
general,
word. Maybe it's just a question from another word, so we can go on with the other questions.
Bringing out the question.
or maybe what happens. Yes, please.
Hello. I guess it's for all 3. Something that came into my mind as I was watching each of your presentations. Have you heard of the kind of political ideology, or whatever you want to call it, queer nihilism?
Queer?
Queer nihilism.
Nihilism.
Queer nihilism specifically. Okay.
What's that?
I've only listened to 1 hour podcast about it. I haven't read all the books, but it's kind of the idea that queer people, queer culture, unlike other political ideologies, which is overthrow the capitalists, fight the fascists, install a central planned government, whatever, there's kind of always this subtext of we're doing it for the children of the next generation. But across the queer spectrum, of course, depending on your life choices and capabilities, that might not be in the path for you. So it's like a politics of nihilism that I found really compelling, and I kind of came across it before I came out as a trans person, but I don't know, maybe it's interesting to look into.
No, the only problem is about the meaning that you, me, or other people give to the word nihilism. Because in many aspects, this is considered something negative. In my opinion, nihilism is deconstructivism brought to the maximum level. It means, for example, let's imagine the idea of God, of a nihilist person. The nihilist tries to deconstruct the idea of God, try to analyze it, and he arrives at the position that God cannot exist and has been created by humans because there is a reason for this. So it doesn't believe in God. If it does the same thing with many other social constructs, political constructs, economical constructs, it goes to the same solution. It deconstructs things, but it can't construct back it because it arrives to the solution that everything of this is substructure that doesn't allow us to live freely. On the other hand, there is black metal studies, transcendental black metal studies, or another school that is called the dark delusionism, that tries to analyze also queer studies and queer history. For example, one of the most important theorists of black metal theory is the guitarist of an American band called Liturgy, and she did transition. She's a transgender woman now. And so black metal originated in Norway, and it started because at the time the people was very wealthy and bored because everything was fine over there, and they needed a twist, they needed something. Now, on the contrary, black metal studies are starting to think about the idea of world destruction, the climate change catastrophe, the fact that black metal is very related in lyrics, in themes, in sound, to nature, to snow, to woods, to animals, wild animals, and things like that. And so black metal studies are about catastrophe. And something strange is happening in the queer culture now. I've seen, I'm not talking about the Italian situation, but I'm talking about American queer music scene. I want not to make names, but I'm starting to see the appearance of some new queer stars that they are using an inclusive narrative, but they are starting to create a fascist fascination, because instead of being inclusive is exclusive, because it says, oh yeah, I'm gender, they are not even using the word transgender, they are saying they are not binary or gender fluid. I mean, if we talk about technology, and if we know technology and we know biology and hacking, we know that everything in the universe is based on a binary code. DNA, our body, everything is based on a binary code. You don't agree?
I happily disagree on this.
Okay, then you will tell us why. But by the way, I see that it's pretending to be not binary. It's too much. But the problem is with the gender fluid. All these people make beautiful videos. These videos is very bulimic, full of citations, full of stuff, full of things, full of relationship with things, very rich, very powerful in imaginary, in colors, in everything. But they are wealthy. And they are starting, there is one of these superstars of the queer community that he pretends to be pro-Hayek. He made transgender videos, pro-Hayek, that is the contrary, the enemy, the Hayek economic philosophy is the contrary of the Keynes philosophy. So it's the right-wing economical philosophy. He makes videos about making cash fast. He makes videos with the guys in suites saying, if you can't fuck the man of your dreams, became the man of your dreams. And who is the man of your dreams? The Wall Street broker. So this kind of Hollywoodian queer imaginary is pushing a fascist agenda. There is a big problem between the words, the word gay and the word queer. There is a punk metal band called Anal Kant that started to use in the records the word gay to mean something fake, something stupid, something with no meaning. And after a while, this started to widespread everything. To be queer means to have, like to say, a sense and the meaning of your fight. To be gay, it means to be, what was the original word in English of gay? Gay, happy, enjoying life, but not caring of anything, not caring of politics. Well, now, black metal theory or nihilist theory or dark delusion theory can be, like to say, a barrier to this new fascist fascination of this kind of queer, not queer, of gender fluid imaginary that is actually the recreation of the capitalist dream of selling everything, also selling identities or these identities.
Yeah, this is something to be very aware of, especially when talking about the intricacy of technology, politics, and because, of course, when you open a spectrum, then what comes up can go in many directions, and then the direction you take, you should take responsibility for them somehow. Maybe we have another question in the audience?
Yes.
Yes, one. And Nada, is it a long question or a short question? A short question, yes.
Jira, favorite Dreamcast game. Let's go.
I think, hello? I think it has to be Sonic Adventure 2 because it's objectively a terrible game, but it's like, it's just so rich. Like, that's my answer.
There was also a short answer.
Okay, but first I think we should give really an applause to the whole panel a bit longer. Yeah. And also I want to thank you all for this great ending of the Saturday program. Also very happy you are all here. I mean, we have been in contact for so long with each of you, and it was really wonderful to have you here at the Disruption Network Club. And I just want to conclude by mentioning what is happening tomorrow, if we will see the slides. We will have the workshops tomorrow that I remind you. The first one is The Empire Strikes Back, a workshop on the ICD-11 and trans self-definition. Still places are available, and also the workshop mapping and monitoring anti-trans movements. And I would say this connects really well with what you were saying, Helena. So also important to follow these again with Oskis and Mallory Moore. And then we will conclude the program of these 3 days with the film screening, Sex and Drug and Rock and Roll, about the work and the art of Diantor. We'll start at 6 tomorrow afternoon, and then we will have also a question and answer after the film screening. I also want to mention just briefly, since tomorrow we won't be on streaming, so this is the last day of streaming, it's good to mention what will happen next at the Disruption Network Club. We will have our next conference November 25th to 27, and the topic is madness, and will be about mental disorders after the digital. And this conference will be curated by my colleague, Helena Velianowska. So I'm also very happy that she will do this. And, but I don't leave the Disruption Network Club, I will still be here. But it's very nice to share the curationship, actually it will be her curationship. And after that, I wanted to mention our book, Whistleblowing for Change, that you find at the entrance. Also there is a chapter written by Oskis that we didn't mention today. They write about the importance also of networking and create a peer community of trust around the topics of whistleblowing. And this book for me is also really important in this context because you were saying it's very important to trust yourself, be the person that you want, and the act of whistleblowing is also in this direction. The courage of changing opinion, to speak out the truth and become the person that you really feel you want to be. So you can get the book at the entrance, or you can also find it online through our websites. The book is published by Transcript Verlag. And with 30 authors that have been also part of our conferences in the past, and many of them whistleblowers. So with this, we conclude the day of today. I thank you again for the moderation, Margherita. I thank you all for the panel, and see you tomorrow for the workshops and the public session at 6. The workshops are before.
Thank you.